She knelt before the cowboy not to beg, but to choose her future. But for Emma, it often felt like a cage. She had grown up under the watchful eyes of her family who wanted her to follow a very predictable path, finish school, take a job in town, get married to someone respectable, and settle down. On paper, it sounded safe, even comfortable. But inside, Emma felt restless. There was a longing she could not name, a sense that life had more to offer than the predictable routine she had been living. Her days often blurred together. Mornings were spent helping her mother with chores around the house, preparing breakfast for her younger siblings, and making sure the house looked perfect before heading out. Afternoons were spent at the local diner or helping at the small family shop, where she would smile politely at customers while silently counting the minutes until the day ended. Evenings were for listening to the faint sounds of laughter from friends who were slowly carving out their own paths that Emma could only dream of but never seemed to reach. Her family's expectations were like invisible chains. They did not mean to harm her. They truly believed they were guiding her toward a good life. But to Emma, it felt as if every choice had already been made for her. She wanted to be independent, to make decisions for herself, but the fear of disappointing them often held her back. On many nights, she would lie awake in her small room, staring at the ceiling, imagining what life could be like if she had the courage to take control. She imagined waking up in a place where her decisions mattered, where her dreams were not dismissed as foolish ideas, and where she could live fully without constantly worrying about judgment. It was during one of these restless evenings that Emma first noticed the cowboy. She was walking along the edge of the small town, near the fields that stretched toward the horizon, when she saw a figure working with horses in the distance. He moved with an ease and confidence that immediately caught her attention. His hands were strong but gentle, guiding the horses with care. There was a calmness about him that was different from the rushed and nervous energy she saw in everyone else around her. His name was Cole. He had recently arrived in the town, renting a small cabin on the outskirts of the fields. People whispered about him, saying he was a wanderer who had traveled from place to place, learning about ranching, caring for animals, and living a life guided by his own choices. Emma, who had spent so long following rules and expectations, found herself drawn to him, not because of any romantic notion at first, but because he seemed free in a way she had never experienced. Their first meeting was simple, almost accidental. Emma had been helping at the family shop when a stray horse wandered into the street. The horse seemed frightened, its eyes wide with panic. Emma froze, unsure of what to do, when Cole appeared as if from nowhere. He moved quickly, speaking softly to the horse, and within moments the animal had calmed down. Emma watched in awe. He did not push or threaten the horse. He listened, understood, and acted with patience and care. "Are you okay?" he asked, turning to her with a warm smile that felt welcoming rather than intrusive. Emma nodded, unable to speak for a moment. She had expected someone to scold the horse or chase it away, but instead, he handled the situation with a quiet confidence that made everything feel calm. "You did well staying back," he said gently. "It's not safe to try to handle them if you're not used to it." That small moment sparked a connection. Emma found herself thinking about him long after he left. She did not know why, but there was something about his presence that made her heart feel lighter, as if a door she didn't know existed had been opened. She realized she had been craving freedom, not just the kind that comes from being physically unbound, but the freedom to make choices for herself, to be heard and respected, and to step into life fully. Over the following days, Emma noticed Cole around town more often. He would stop to help someone with a stubborn animal or offer advice to those struggling with ranch work. What impressed her the most was that he never seemed to demand attention or recognition. He simply lived his life with integrity and patience, qualities that Emma had rarely seen in people around her. Slowly, She began to wonder if it was possible for her to live like that too, not blindly following the path laid out for her, but carving her own, step by step. Her curiosity about him grew, but so did her fear. She had spent her whole life being careful, making sure she did not upset anyone or stray too far from the expectations that had been set for her. The idea of stepping into the unknown, of risking disapproval or failure, terrified her. And yet, she could not shake the feeling that life with Cole, or perhaps just life inspired by the way he lived, was calling her to be braver than she had ever been. One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the fields in golden light, Emma found herself walking near Cole's cabin. She watched him working with the horses, noticing how he moved with ease, how he communicated with the animals without force or fear. It was mesmerizing. She realized she was not just admiring him. She was imagining what it would be like to have the courage to live her own life the way he did. She imagined waking up each day with purpose, with choices that reflected her true self rather than what others expected of her. That night, Emma lay awake thinking about possibilities. She thought about the life she had always known, and then she thought about the life she could choose, a life of independence, respect, and authenticity. It was not an easy choice, and she knew that taking the first step would require courage. But for the first time, she felt a spark of hope, a sense that perhaps she did not have to live bound by fear. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could step into a future of her own making. And so, even before they had spoken much beyond polite greetings and casual encounters, Emma felt a quiet determination growing inside her. She knew that life was full of crossroads, moments where one choice could change everything. Meeting Cole had shown her that freedom was possible, that living with integrity and courage was possible. But more importantly, it had shown her that she could be brave, that she could take control of her own story, and that she did not have to wait for permission to choose her path. Emma's heart was full of questions, but also a new kind of strength. She was beginning to understand that her future would not be given to her, it had to be chosen. And for the first time, she felt ready to kneel not out of fear or submission, but as a symbol of her willingness to take the first step toward the life she wanted to create. It was a quiet moment of awakening, a turning point that would guide everything that came next. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself thinking about Cole more and more. Every time she saw him, whether guiding a horse across the field or helping a neighbor fix a fence, she noticed small details. The way he moved confidently yet gently, the way he listened to others without judgment, and the way he carried himself with quiet patience. It was not just his skills or appearance that drew her attention, but the way he seemed completely at peace with himself. Emma had never met anyone like him. He made her realize that it was possible to live life fully, not just exist within its boundaries. One afternoon, Emma found herself near the edge of Cole's ranch. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink as the sun began to dip behind the distant hills. Cole was there, working with a small group of horses that had been recently brought in from another ranch. Emma watched from a distance, careful not to interrupt, yet unable to tear her eyes away. One horse, a young filly, was particularly nervous. It reared slightly, causing the others to step back, tense and alert. Cole moved toward it slowly, speaking softly, his hand steady. Emma could see the fear in the filly's eyes and felt a sudden surge of compassion. Without thinking, she stepped closer, wanting to help, though she did not know how. The horse flinched at her movement and she froze. "Easy," Cole said gently, glancing at her and then at the horse. "It's okay, just stay calm." Emma nodded, careful not to make sudden movements. Cole's calmness seemed to spread to her as well. She could feel her own heart slowing, the tension leaving her shoulders. Slowly, under his guidance, she helped to reassure the filly. With patience and soft words, they guided the horse to stand still. Emma was amazed. She had never worked with an animal like this before, and yet, with Cole's guidance, she felt capable. When the filly finally settled, Cole smiled at her. "You did well," he said. "You stayed calm, and that helped more than you realize." Emma felt a warmth spread through her. It was more than pride. It was the realization that she could face something unfamiliar and succeed. For the first time, she felt a sense of competence she had not experienced before. Cole's presence had a way of bringing out her confidence, of helping her see that she was stronger than she thought. From that day on, Emma found reasons to visit the ranch more often. Sometimes it was under the pretext of helping her neighbors, other times simply to observe. Each visit revealed something new, not just about the ranch, but about herself. She noticed how Cole treated every living being with respect, how he listened before acting, and how he approached challenges with patience rather than force. She realized that strength was not about controlling others or imposing will, but about understanding, kindness, and courage. Their conversations began slowly. At first, they were brief, practical, and polite. Cole would explain a technique for guiding a horse or show her how to repair a fence, while Emma would listen and ask questions. She was careful not to reveal too much about her life at first, unsure of how much to share. But over time, their talks became more personal. Emma found herself sharing small stories about her childhood, her dreams, and her frustrations with the limitations imposed on her. Cole listened without judgment, offering advice only when asked, and always with respect. "You don't have to follow a path someone else lays out for you," he told her one evening, as they sat on a fence watching the sunset. "Life is short, and it's yours to live. It won't always be easy, but if you choose your own way, you'll find strength you didn't know you had." Emma was struck by his words. They were simple, but they resonated deeply. For so long, she had been living according to other people's rules, fearful of making mistakes or disappointing anyone. Now she began to see that she had the power to make choices for herself, to take risks in pursuit of a life that felt true and meaningful. The bond between them grew stronger, but Emma's feelings were complex. She admired him, yes, and there was a growing attraction, but it was intertwined with respect and inspiration. Cole represented a life of courage, independence, and authenticity, qualities Emma wanted to embody for herself. She did not want to be defined by anyone else's expectations, not even by the presence of someone she cared for. She wanted to choose her life consciously, thoughtfully, and bravely. One evening, as the sky turned a deep shade of purple, Cole invited Emma to help him move hay for the winter. At first, she hesitated, unsure if she could handle the physical work, but he reassured her. "It's not about strength alone," he said with a grin. "It's about willingness to learn and keep trying." Working side by side, Emma discovered that she was stronger and more capable than she had imagined. Each task, each small success, built her confidence. She laughed when she made mistakes, and Cole laughed with her, never in mockery but in shared joy. Emma felt a sense of partnership, as if they were working toward something together, not as teacher and student, but as equals supporting each other. During these moments, Emma began to understand something important. Her admiration for Cole was not just about him, it was about what he inspired in her. He helped her see her own potential, her own strength, and the possibility of living life on her own terms. She realized that the courage she was beginning to feel had always been inside her. She just needed someone to help her recognize it. The community started noticing the change in Emma too. She walked taller, spoke with more confidence, and her laughter came more easily. People who had once thought of her as quiet or timid began to see a new energy in her. Emma felt proud, but more than that, she felt alive. For the first time in a long time, she was not just following a path laid out for her, she was beginning to forge her own. But with every step forward came doubt. Emma knew that choosing her own life might mean disappointing her family or stepping away from familiar comforts. She worried about how they would react if she pursued a future different from what they expected. She also worried about her feelings for Cole. What did it mean exactly? Was it admiration, attraction, or something deeper? She knew she needed time to understand her own heart before making any decisions that could change her life. Despite the doubts, one thing was clear. Emma had found someone who showed her that life could be lived fully, with courage and respect. Cole did not demand her attention, nor did he try to control her choices. He simply lived his life honestly and kindly, and in doing so, he inspired Emma to do the same. She began to feel that maybe, just maybe, she could step into a future that was her own, not defined by fear or expectation, but by her choices and values. As the days turned into weeks, their bond deepened further. They shared small moments of laughter, quiet evenings watching the stars, and times when they helped each other with the work on the ranch. Through it all, Emma learned something invaluable. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. She learned that independence was not about being alone, but about making choices that aligned with her heart. And she learned that respect, both for herself and for others, was the foundation of any meaningful connection. Emma realized that she was ready for the next step. She didn't yet know what it would be or how it would unfold, but she knew she could no longer remain in the shadows of fear and expectation. She wanted to embrace life fully, to make choices for herself, and to step forward with courage and clarity. And she knew, deep down, that Cole would be part of that journey, not as someone to guide her blindly, but as someone who respected her strength and her ability to choose her path. For the first time, Emma felt a quiet sense of certainty. She understood that life would not always be easy, and challenges would come, but she was no longer afraid to face them. She had found a friend, a mentor, and perhaps something more, but most importantly, she had found herself, the part of her that was brave, capable, and ready to choose her own future. And so, as the sun set behind the rolling hills and the fields were bathed in golden light, Emma felt a sense of peace she had never known. She was standing on the edge of possibility, ready to step forward into a life she could call her own. And although the path was uncertain, she knew that with courage, respect, and determination, she could face whatever came next. The weeks passed, and Emma's feelings grew stronger, though she did not fully understand them yet. It was more than admiration for Cole. It was a mix of respect, trust, and a deep recognition of the courage he inspired in her. Every moment they spent together brought her closer to understanding herself, her dreams, and her desire to live a life of her own choosing. But with that realization came the weight of decisions she had been avoiding for years. Emma knew she could not remain in the safety of observation forever. A choice awaited her, one that could change everything, and it was becoming impossible to ignore. One afternoon, Emma arrived at the ranch earlier than usual. The sky was clear, and the sun warmed the fields with a soft golden light. Cole was tending to the animals, but he looked up when she approached and offered his usual easy smile. Emma felt a flutter of nervousness, more intense than usual. She had made a decision, though it was not yet voiced, and the anticipation of what it would mean made her heart race. She wanted to act with courage, to step forward boldly, but the fear of making the wrong choice lingered. "Good morning," Cole said, his voice calm and steady. "Ready for a busy day?" Emma nodded, trying to appear confident though inside her mind raced. She had rehearsed this moment many times in her head. She knew she wanted to take control of her future, to make a choice that reflected her strength, but uncertainty tugged at her. What if her family did not understand? What if she made a mistake? What if this choice changed everything in ways she could not yet imagine? Cole noticed the tension in her expression. "You seem serious today," he said gently. "Something on your mind?" Emma took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun and the quiet reassurance of Cole's presence. It was time. She had learned from him that courage was not the absence of fear but the ability to act despite it. And now she had to act. I need to make a choice," she said slowly. A choice about my life, about who I want to be and what I want to do. Cole nodded, encouraging her silently. Then say it, he urged gently. What is it you want? Emma's heart pounded. She looked at him, seeing not just a man who had captured her attention, but someone who had shown her the possibility of living freely and fully. She wanted to honor that, to step forward in a way that reflected the courage she had found within herself. And so she did something unexpected. She knelt before him, not in submission, not to ask for permission, but as a symbol of her readiness to make her own choice. Cole blinked, surprised, but there was no shock or disapproval in his eyes. He saw what she intended, a gesture of conscious decision, not weakness. I kneel not because I am asking you to decide for me, Emma said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her chest. I kneel because I am choosing. I am choosing to take my life into my own hands, to face what comes with courage, and to step into the future I want for myself. For a moment, silence hung between them. The animals grazed quietly nearby, the wind rustled through the grass, and the world seemed to pause. Emma could feel her own heartbeat, rapid and strong, as if echoing the significance of the moment. She realized that this act, simple in appearance but profound in meaning, was her declaration of independence, her choice to move forward on her own terms. Cole extended a hand, helping her to rise. His expression was filled with respect and understanding. You've always had this courage, he said softly. I just helped you see it in yourself. Emma smiled, a mix of relief and empowerment flooding through her. She understood now that courage was not something someone could give her. It had always been inside her. Cole had shown her the way, but the choice had always belonged to her. Kneeling had been her way of acknowledging that power, of stepping fully into her own strength. The next few days were filled with reflection. Emma spent time alone in the fields, walking among the horses and letting her thoughts settle. She thought about the life she had known, the safety, the expectations, and the limitations, and then about the life she wanted, the freedom, the respect, and the possibility of growth. She realized that fear had kept her from seeing her own strength, but now that fear was being replaced by determination. When she returned to the ranch, she began to share her plans with Cole. She spoke about wanting to learn more, to take on new responsibilities, and to live in a way that reflected her true self. Cole listened, offering guidance and encouragement, but never imposing his own desires. His support was quiet and steady, reminding her that respect and partnership were built on equality, not control. Their bond deepened in ways that were more than romantic. It became a partnership of mutual respect, trust, and shared growth. Cole trusted Emma's judgment, and Emma trusted herself more than she ever had before. They faced challenges together, mending fences, training animals, and managing the daily tasks of the ranch. But each challenge became an opportunity for Emma to prove to herself that she was capable and resilient. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Emma sat on a fence beside Cole, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. I never realized how much courage I had inside me, she said quietly. I thought I needed someone to guide me, but I see now that I've always had it. You just helped me find it. Cole smiled, nodding. That's all any of us need sometimes. A little encouragement to see what's already inside us. You chose this moment, and that makes it yours. Emma felt a sense of peace she had never known. The act of kneeling, the moment of conscious choice, had transformed her. She was no longer the young woman defined by fear and expectation. She was someone capable of shaping her own path, someone ready to face life with courage and clarity. Even with this newfound strength, Emma knew the road ahead would not be without challenges. She would face decisions that required bravery, moments that tested her resolve, and situations that demanded patience and wisdom. But she also knew that she had the tools to navigate them: self-respect, courage, and the ability to choose her path intentionally. Cole became more than a companion. He was a partner in her journey. He never dictated her choices or pressured her into decisions. Instead, he offered support, advice, and a steady presence that allowed her to explore her capabilities fully. Emma realized that true partnership was about equality, trust, and mutual respect, and she cherished this understanding deeply. As the days turned into weeks, Emma began to see her future more clearly. She imagined a life where she could wake up each day with purpose, make decisions aligned with her values, and face challenges with confidence. She no longer feared the unknown. She welcomed it as a space where she could grow and thrive. The act of kneeling had not been one of submission. It had been a declaration of independence, a symbol of readiness, and a commitment to live fully. Her family, though initially uncertain about her choices, began to notice the change in her demeanor. Emma spoke with more confidence, carried herself with poise, and approached life with a sense of determination they had not seen before. Slowly, they began to understand that her choices were not reckless but grounded in thoughtfulness, courage, and self-awareness. Through it all, Emma learned that the most important relationships in life were those built on respect, understanding, and support. Cole had shown her that strength was not about control or dominance, but about integrity, kindness, and the courage to make choices that honored both oneself and others. She realized that by choosing her path intentionally, she could inspire others around her, not by dictating their lives, but by demonstrating the power of self-respect and conscious action. And so, as the sun set on another day, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment that was both quiet and profound. She had faced her fear, acknowledged her strength, and made a choice that reflected her true self. The act of kneeling had marked the moment she stepped fully into her own power, embracing a future defined not by expectation or fear, but by courage, clarity, and intentional choice. Emma knew that life was still full of challenges and uncertainties, but she was ready. She had discovered the power of conscious decision, the strength of self-respect, and the depth of her own courage. And with Cole by her side, not as a guide but as a partner, she felt prepared to face whatever came next, confident that she could create a life that was authentically hers. After the pivotal moment when Emma chose her future, life began to feel different, lighter, yet filled with purpose. Each day brought new challenges, and each challenge became an opportunity for growth. She and Cole had become a true team, working together on the ranch, learning from each other, and discovering a rhythm that was both comforting and empowering. Emma had always imagined freedom as something distant and almost impossible to grasp, but now it was a part of her daily life, tangible and real. Morning chores were no longer a routine. They were lessons in patience, skill, and responsibility. Emma learned how to feed the horses, tend to the fields, and repair fences. Each task taught her something new, not just about ranch work but about herself. She discovered a resilience she hadn't recognized before, an ability to adapt, learn, and persevere. There were times when she struggled, when her hands ached, or when a stubborn animal refused to cooperate. But each difficulty strengthened her, and she found that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. Cole was always nearby, offering guidance without ever taking control. He had a way of letting Emma make mistakes and then learn from them, gently correcting her when needed and encouraging her when she succeeded. His patience taught her an important lesson. Growth was not about instant perfection, but about consistent effort and learning from experience. Emma began to notice the subtle ways she was changing, not just in her skills, but in her confidence, her decision-making, and the way she approached challenges. Their bond deepened in this shared life of work and learning. Emma no longer saw Cole only as a mentor or a figure of admiration. He had become a partner in the truest sense. They shared the responsibilities of the ranch, celebrated small victories, and supported each other through setbacks. Through it all, Emma felt a sense of equality and respect that she had never experienced before. She realized that true partnership was about balance, mutual trust, understanding, and shared commitment. Evenings were a time for reflection. Emma often found herself sitting on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the hills, feeling the calm of the open fields. The quiet moments allowed her to think about how far she had come. She remembered the young woman who had been timid, unsure, and afraid to make choices, and she could hardly recognize her now. The courage she had found within herself had transformed her life. She was no longer waiting for permission or guidance. She was acting with intention, shaping her own story. There were moments of joy that made her feel alive in a way she had never experienced. She laughed freely, shared stories with Cole, and celebrated the small successes on the ranch. For instance, the day a particularly difficult horse finally trusted her enough to respond calmly was a day of triumph. She had worked patiently, learned to read the animal's moods, and adapted her approach until the filly responded to her guidance. Cole had smiled, pride evident in his eyes, but he never took credit for her success. "You earned this," he said simply. That acknowledgement was more rewarding than anything else. It reminded Emma that her abilities were real, her efforts meaningful, and her choices powerful. But life was not without its difficulties. There were days when storms rolled across the fields, damaging fences and making work nearly impossible. There were nights when she worried about the future, about whether she had made the right choices, or about how her family would react to the changes she was making. These challenges tested her resolve, forcing her to confront doubts and fears she had long avoided. Yet each time, she reminded herself of the moment she had knelt and chosen her future. That act had been more than symbolic. It had been a commitment to herself, and it gave her the courage to face whatever came next. Emma also began to explore more of herself outside of the ranch work. She discovered passions she had neglected, like writing and drawing, and found time to nurture them alongside her responsibilities. Cole encouraged her to pursue these interests, recognizing that a full life required more than just labor. It required joy, creativity, and personal fulfillment. Slowly, Emma realized that her independence was not about isolating herself or doing everything alone. It was about living fully, embracing growth, and making choices that honored her own values. The connection between Emma and Cole grew deeper, built not on dependency, but on mutual respect and shared experiences. They would often sit together under the stars, talking quietly about dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. Emma learned to trust her instincts, to voice her opinions, and to approach life with clarity. She felt supported, not sheltered, encouraged, not directed. This partnership became a source of strength, teaching her that love and respect could coexist with independence and self-determination. As time passed, Emma began to reflect on her family and the life she had left behind. She realized that choosing her own path did not mean rejecting her past, but rather honoring it while stepping forward into her future. She reached out to her family, sharing her experiences, her growth, and her plans with honesty and openness. Slowly, they began to understand her choices, seeing the courage and thoughtfulness behind them. While not all doubts disappeared, Emma felt a sense of reconciliation. She had not abandoned them. She had simply chosen a life that reflected her true self. One day, while fixing a fence together, Emma paused and looked at Cole. "I never thought life could feel like this," she said, her voice full of wonder. "I always imagined freedom as something distant, something I could never reach, but now it feels real." Cole smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "It is real," he said softly, "and it's yours because you chose it. Courage doesn't mean you won't face challenges. It means you face them knowing you can handle them." Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude. She realized that the life she was building was not just about work or independence. It was about becoming the person she had always wanted to be. She was learning patience, resilience, and humility. She was discovering the depth of her own strength and the value of true partnership. And most importantly, she was living intentionally, making choices that aligned with her values and desires. The days on the ranch became a rhythm of learning, growth, and shared experiences. Emma faced challenges with determination, celebrated victories with joy, and reflected on her progress with pride. She understood that life was not a series of simple steps, but a journey filled with opportunities to grow, learn, and embrace her own power. Every sunrise brought a chance to act intentionally, every sunset a moment to reflect on her achievements and plan for what came next. Through it all, Emma remained grounded in the choice she had made. Kneeling before Cole had been the first step, but living her life fully, embracing her independence, and cultivating her own strength had been the ongoing journey. She had discovered that true empowerment was not a single moment, but a series of decisions, actions, and reflections that reinforced her commitment to herself. By the time the season began to change, Emma had fully embraced her new life. She moved with confidence across the ranch, guided the animals with skill, and managed her responsibilities with a sense of purpose. She and Cole worked side by side, not as teacher and student, but as equals, partners navigating life together. Their respect for each other was evident in every action, every word, and every shared experience. Emma's transformation did not go unnoticed by the community. People admired her confidence, her kindness, and her competence. She had become a source of inspiration, demonstrating that strength and courage could coexist with humility and compassion. More importantly, she had discovered the power of choice, the ability to shape her own life, embrace her potential, and live with intention. And so, as the sun set on another day, painting the fields in warm golden light, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment that was both deep and quiet. She had faced challenges, discovered her strengths, and embraced the life she had chosen. The journey was ongoing, but she was no longer afraid. She had learned that courage, self-respect, and partnership were the foundation of a meaningful life, and she was committed to building that life with intention, care, and love. Emma had stepped fully into her future, not as a passive participant, but as a conscious creator of her own story. The act of kneeling, the lessons learned, and the choices made had transformed her. She was no longer bound by fear or expectation. She was empowered, resilient, and ready to face whatever lay ahead. And with Cole by her side, she knew that the journey, though unpredictable, would be filled with growth, partnership, and shared purpose. Time moved steadily on the ranch, each day bringing new work, challenges, and quiet victories. Emma had grown in ways she could never have imagined, and the young woman who had once lived under the weight of expectations now walked with confidence, purpose, and a deep sense of inner strength. She had embraced her independence, nurtured her passions, and built a life that reflected her values, all while cultivating a partnership with Cole that was built on respect, trust, and shared experiences. Every morning, Emma awoke with a sense of gratitude. The field stretched wide, bathed in the soft morning light, and the horses moved calmly as she prepared to start her day. She handled each task with confidence, from feeding the animals to repairing fences, always mindful of the lessons she had learned. Life on the ranch was not always easy, but she had discovered a rhythm that was both challenging and deeply satisfying. The physical labor strengthened her body, while the responsibility and care she gave to the animals and land strengthened her spirit. Cole had become more than a companion or mentor. He was a true partner in every sense. They worked together seamlessly, anticipating each other's needs, sharing tasks, and supporting one another in every challenge. Emma had come to appreciate the quiet understanding that existed between them, a connection that required no grand gestures, only trust, respect, and shared effort. Their bond was not based on dependence but on equality. She had learned that love, respect, and partnership could coexist with independence, and that each person could grow stronger while supporting the other. There were moments of reflection when Emma would pause to look out over the fields, her mind wandering to the journey she had taken. She thought of the young woman she had been, uncertain and constrained by fear and expectation. She remembered the nights of doubt, the moments of hesitation, and the endless questions about what her future could hold. And now, standing in the same fields, she felt a profound sense of pride and clarity. She had chosen her path intentionally, acted with courage, and embraced the life she wanted to live. The act of kneeling before Cole that one afternoon, once a symbol of decision, had become a touchstone for her growth. It reminded her of the moment she acknowledged her own power and took control of her story. It had not been a gesture of weakness, but a declaration of strength, a commitment to live authentically and intentionally. That choice had set in motion a chain of events that transformed every aspect of her life, shaping the person she had become. Life on the ranch brought unexpected joys as well. Emma discovered that she enjoyed the simple pleasures of daily work, the warmth of the sun on her face, the sound of horses moving through the fields, the satisfaction of a job well done. She laughed freely, celebrated small victories, and found peace in the quiet moments of reflection at the end of the day. These joys were not grand or dramatic, but they were real and deeply fulfilling. They reminded her that life's richness often lay in the everyday moments, in the effort, care, and attention given to the world around her. Emma also nurtured her creative side. She found time to write, draw, and explore ideas that had been dormant for years. Cole encouraged her to pursue these interests, understanding that personal fulfillment was an essential part of a complete life. Together, they discussed dreams, shared stories, and supported each other's aspirations. This shared encouragement strengthened their bond, showing Emma that a true partnership allowed each person to grow individually while remaining connected as equals. Despite the peace and joy she had found, Emma remained mindful of the challenges she had faced. She knew that life would always bring obstacles, unforeseen difficulties, moments of doubt, and times when patience and resilience were required. But she faced these challenges with confidence, knowing that she had developed the tools to navigate them. Her courage was rooted in experience, her strength in self-respect, and her clarity in intentional choice. She no longer feared uncertainty, because she understood that every step she took was a part of her journey, and every decision was an opportunity to shape her own story. Emma's relationship with her family had evolved as well. They had come to see the young woman she had become, not the one they had once tried to mold according to their expectations. Through honesty, patience, and open conversation, Emma shared her experiences and growth with them. Slowly, they began to understand that her choices were not reckless, but grounded in thoughtfulness and courage. While not every concern vanished, Emma felt a sense of reconciliation. She had honored her past while stepping fully into her future, and that balance gave her peace. There were days when Emma and Cole would take breaks from the work of the ranch to enjoy quiet moments together. They would sit under the shade of an old oak tree, watching the sky shift colors as the sun set. They shared stories, discussed hopes for the future, and reflected on the challenges they had faced. These moments were simple, yet they carried a profound sense of connection. Emma realized that she had found not only independence but companionship that nurtured her growth, respected her choices, and celebrated her courage. Through all these experiences, Emma came to understand a fundamental truth. Life was not about avoiding challenges or seeking constant approval. It was about living intentionally, making choices aligned with one's values, and facing uncertainty with courage. She had learned that strength was not measured by dominance or control, but by integrity, kindness, and the ability to act despite fear. And she had learned that true partnership required trust, respect, and shared effort, qualities that she and Cole embodied in their daily lives. As the seasons changed, Emma looked back on her journey with a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. She had stepped away from fear and expectation, embraced her independence, and cultivated a life that reflected her values and aspirations. She had learned to trust herself, to honor her own strength, and to approach life with intention and courage. And in doing so, she had built relationships rooted in equality, respect, and mutual growth. One evening, as the first stars appeared in the sky, Emma stood on a small hill overlooking the ranch. The wind brushed gently against her face, and the fields stretched endlessly before her. She thought of the young woman she had been, the one who had once felt uncertain, constrained, and unsure of her place in the world. And she smiled, knowing that she had transformed into someone who faced life with clarity, strength, and courage. Cole approached her quietly, standing beside her without speaking at first. They watched the stars appear together, a shared silence that carried understanding, respect, and quiet joy. Finally, Cole spoke, his voice soft but steady. "You've come a long way," he said. "I've seen you grow, learn, and take control of your life. You're strong, capable, and fearless in your own way." Emma felt a warmth spread through her. "I had to learn it," she replied. "No one could give it to me. I had to find it myself. But having you by my side made it easier to see what was possible." Cole nodded, a gentle smile on his face. "And that's all anyone can do, help each other see the strength that's already there. You chose your path and now you live it fully. That's the greatest courage of all." Emma felt a deep sense of peace. She understood that life would continue to bring challenges, but she was ready for them. She had learned that choice was a powerful tool, courage a constant companion, and respect a foundation for every meaningful connection. She had embraced her independence, cultivated her growth, and built a life that was authentically her own. And she had discovered that love and partnership were not about control or dependence, but about shared effort, mutual support, and the freedom to grow together. As the night deepened and the stars shone brightly above, Emma felt a quiet joy in her heart. She had taken the first step when she knelt, and every step since had been a journey of discovery, strength, and empowerment. She had faced fear, embraced challenges, and cultivated a life that reflected her values and aspirations. And with Cole by her side, she knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, as partners, equals, and companions on the journey of life. Emma had chosen her future, and in doing so, she had chosen herself. That choice had transformed everything: her confidence, her relationships, her sense of purpose, and her understanding of what it meant to live fully. She was no longer bound by fear, doubt, or expectation. She was empowered, courageous, and ready to embrace every possibility that life offered. And so, as the ranch lay quiet under the starry night, Emma took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs, and smiled. The journey had not always been easy, but it had been worth every step. She had learned that life's true strength came from the courage to choose, the wisdom to act with intention, and the grace to grow alongside those who respected and supported her. She had found her place in the world, not as someone defined by others, but as a young woman who had taken control of her story and created a life she could call her own.